In this video, we're going to show you how to sell $310,000 on Amazon FBA. I'm here with Garrett Roselle.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
Have to try, you actually have to put effort in. Garrett's obviously putting the effort in. I've seen him for a few years. I've seen him on YouTube. I've seen him grinding on Instagram. And recently I saw that you were like watching my story or something on Instagram, and I scrolled through. I was like, let me see what this kid's doing. Like, is he a fake guru or what's going on here? And I saw 310,000 in sales over the last 30 days. And you got my attention, man. Super excited to dive in your story and show the people step by step, your journey. And hopefully by showing them your journey and how you got started and really how you got up to 310,000 in sales, they can do the same. So welcome to the pod, man.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, 100%. So if you want to take a step back and just tell us like how you got started, what made you get into Amazon, and slowly how you scaled.
Yeah. So about 6 years ago, I got started, and it's kind of like the typical story you hear. I was just working at FedEx as like a package handler in the warehouse. So making like $12.62 an hour, just kind of busting my butt, working super hard in the warehouse. But I came across a video on YouTube teaching like how to sell used books on Amazon. So I was like, you know what? I've been trying all these different business models. Like,
who was it? Do you remember who it was?
Reezy Resells.
Okay.
So I came across one of his videos. I was like, you know what? Worst case, you're spending $1 on a book. Worst case, I lose a few $100 trying this out. So I started hitting up like Goodwills, library sales, and stuff like that. Just sourcing used books. And then I sent my first shipment in. And within like the first day, I sold like 2 books. So I was like, all right, this actually works. So I started doing that for about 6 months. And then I got introduced that like you could sell name brand products with like retail arbitrage and stuff like that. And at that time, I had already sold like a pretty good amount of books. So I was able to get ungated in like some of the top brands like Nike and stuff like that. So I kind of moved into sourcing products at like the Nike outlets, Marshalls, Ross, all those different stores. And then I did that for about a good 2 years until I got introduced to like more of the OA and wholesale, because I kind of hit like a point where I couldn't really scale by myself in terms of like going out and shopping every day. So I was like, I need to find something where I could get my hand on more products and spend more capital. So I started doing OA and got into wholesale. And now we're about 70% wholesale and about 20% RA and 10% OA. So that's kind of been the transition from selling books 6 years ago to pretty much where I'm at now.
And how old are you?
I am 26.
26. Okay. So you started 20 years old, used books 6 years ago. That's right around the time kind of when I started. What did you get up to in sales with used books?
I think I got up to about 15,000 per month. And that was kind of like the point where I was really hustling too.
That's decent profit, man. You're probably at least a 30% profit margin, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was probably netting $5,000 a month on that pretty easily, because that's back when like Goodwill's used books were like somewhere less than $1, but now the prices have gone up.
You can still do it, man. Like 100%. Books are so cheap. Even if you're paying $3, $4, $5 a book, like
Right.
people are like, "Oh, used books is dead." Like it's 100% not. Like if you go out and you work hard and you hustle and like you scan thousands of books, you can get above 10,000 in sales, and you're gonna net 4, 5, 6,000 a month. Like used books is still a great place to start.
Media, video games, stuff like that I used to do at the Goodwill. So there's a ton of, I'd even like sell like used appliances and stuff there, but there's tons of opportunity still with the used market. It's just if you're looking to scale, it's a lot easier with name brand stuff I found. But books is like for anyone.
Did you document that part?
Selling used books?
Did you like post on YouTube? Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you look way back, my first like reselling video was like going garage sailing to sell on eBay, and then I got into books. So I've pretty much documented the whole thing. So for anyone who wants to go check out like my videos from 6 years ago, they're pretty cringy, but they're up there still.
Yeah. So at what point did you start doing? I imagine you did retail arbitrage next.
Yeah, I did that about 6 months in because I had some capital from selling used books. Got into Everyone was hyped up about Nike back then, and still are. Everyone wants to get ungated in Nike, but my account got auto approved and auto ungated in Nike after about 6 months. So I started going to Marshalls, doing like the Nike outlet sales and stuff like that. Um, and I started doing that. I still do a lot of RA today just because since I've been doing it for so long, I've built like a lot of really good connections with the managers and just employees at different stores. So most of the RA I do now is just when a manager texts me, hey, we got a shipment in, come check it out. So that's pretty much
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing now. But really back then when I transitioned from books into more RA, I was really heavy at like the discount stores like Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So you go from spending, I imagine you're spending like a couple thousand in books each month to how much are you spending with retail arbitrage each month back then?
Retail arbitrage, I got up to spending around like 50K a month pretty easily. But that was
That must
kind
have
of,
been like a lot of growth because you probably, I mean, what are you spending in used books? What were you spending?
oh,
Couple
that wasn't
thousand?
off the bat. Right off the bat, I was probably spending like 10,000 a month on
Mhm.
RA, kind of slow scaling. I
Was
didn't,
that kinda freaky? Was that, like,
yeah,
scary for
it,
you?
like when I first started with RA, like I was so used to having like the high ROIs when it comes to books, like spending $1 making 10. So
Mhm.
going out, I was so nitpicky on the products I was sourcing because I wanted those like 100% return on investment products. So I definitely could have spent more, but it was just almost kind of like you said, scary a bit going spending $40 on a pair of shoes to make 20 or $30 profit versus with books you're spending $1 to make 5 to 10. So it definitely was
Mhm.
a bit of getting used to, but once you start kind of getting your feet wet and you're like, oh, these products sell way faster than my books were selling, it kind of made sense after that.
Mhm. And so where did your business progress after doing retail arbitrage? Did you immediately go to wholesale, online arbitrage? What was the next step?
So I tried doing a bit of online arbitrage, but there wasn't like a lot of content surrounding it to like actually learn how to actually do online arbitrage good, if that makes sense. Because
Mhm. There really wasn't, dude. I think there really wasn't until, like, a couple years ago. Big shout out to Miles and Warner. Like, I
yeah,
really do think that they made it really easy to learn online arbitrage. The way they make their videos, they do step by step, just screen recording, showing the way they're thinking about buying products. That's how I learned it. But prior to them, there were people out there, but I don't know, there wasn't, like, a lot of content, but now there is. So
yeah, tons of content now. So like when I first started trying OA, I just didn't have much luck with it because I just really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know about storefront stocking or just manual sourcing. There wasn't Seller Amp, which made it super easy to source on websites. I'd have to jump back and forth between Amazon and uh, different websites. So kind of gave that up pretty quickly and got into wholesale. And I started getting a few suppliers with wholesale, but I don't know if you've done much wholesale. But when I first started,
yeah, I'm doing a lot of wholesale now, like, my account's shut down, but, rumors have it that I'm still selling on Amazon, and wholesale's been the majority of my sales this year.
yeah. So there's definitely it's wholesale is even more of a different business model compared to RA too, just because it is a little bit lower margin. You're more playing the volume game, and then just finding those
Mhm,
suppliers that actually have good products. I mean, you can open accounts with 10 different suppliers, and nine of them aren't going to have anything that's good, and then that one supplier might have 1% of their overall 10,000 products they have to offer are even profitable. So just learning how to become efficient with sourcing, going through catalogs and stuff like that was a learning curve. But I started doing wholesale, and then I kind of got burnt out from it because I was doing all of the prepping myself, and I just kind of transitioned back into RA full time. And then I started doing more OA, got a prep center, and then kind of I was like, you know what, prep centers aren't that bad, and especially if you're doing wholesale, you can find pretty fairly priced prep centers when it comes to wholesale stuff because the volume's there.
mhm.
So I started transitioning into wholesale again this probably early last year and then found some decent suppliers and then just scaled up ever since then.
Mhm. Yeah. So for someone out there listening, they got like $1,000 and they want to scale to what you're doing. They're like, Garrett's doing 100, he's doing 310,000, maybe even 320,000 a month. They're a younger kid, or maybe they're in their 30s, 40s, who knows? But they have a thousand, a few $1,000s starting out. What's the fastest way for them to get to 310,000 a month?
I'd say the fastest way is one, just start learning the basics, right? So like if you have $1,000, that's honestly not a lot of capital to start with. So I'd focus more on just learning, how to create shipments, how to read keep a graph, stuff like that. So the way I would do that starting out is I'd start with books again, just to learn the process, build up that $1,000 into a few $1,000. And then I'd probably transition into, once I hit $3,000, $4,000, start implementing some OA and RA. With faster moving products, but I wouldn't stop the books, especially with only $3,000. I just start dipping my toes in the RA and OA stuff, and just keep turning your money. Try to keep as much money in the business as possible, and just focus on those quick moving products when it comes to selling name brand. And then once you start kind of progressing, you're going to get opportunities from Amazon. You could get an Amazon lending loan. I've taken a few of those to get more capital. And then once I figure with wholesale, like if you don't have, you can start with $3,000 with wholesale, but it's just easier to sell stuff with RA and OA a lot quicker, and it just makes more sense. There's a lot higher ROI stuff you can find. But once I hit like that 10,000 in capital, then I'd start maybe dabbling in wholesale. But you can really scale RA and OA pretty far until you transition. But I definitely start with books to learn the process. Then I'd transition.
What would your strategy be with books? Would you be hitting up library sales? Would you be going to thrift stores, Goodwills, estate sales? Like, what would your strategy be?
For me personally, I had the best luck finding the cheapest books and the most amount of books in like a short period of time by going to library book sales, especially on Saturdays and Sundays. That's usually when most of the book sales are. I'd go in there and pull 100, 150 books in a couple hours. And a lot of times they're like fill a bag for $10. So you can get books for 25 cents, 30 cents a book. Goodwill, I haven't been to a Goodwill in years, but I'm pretty sure the last time I was there, it was like $3-4 a book almost. So I'd focus on the higher price or the higher price books in that. And then, but for books, I never really got too much into like estate sales. I mostly just did thrift stores and library.
What part of the country are you in again?
I'm in Arizona.
Arizona. Okay. So booksalefinder.com has a map of the US, and you can click on any state and find all the book sales at libraries in your local area. So I'm from Tennessee. So you can click here, and yeah, like Garrett's saying, like library sales are like a cheat code. You can make $1,000 profit, $2,000 profit in a day. I mean, if you're smart about it, you can literally clear a couple thousand profit, which sounds ridiculous, but if you show up early to the sale, if you help them set up the sale, if they let you look through everything before everyone else, like it's game over. These are good books. They're donated books from the general public. So booksalefinder.com is a great place to go to check that out. And here's my free course here. If you guys click on this ad, that's my free book selling course. So make sure to click on that. Boom.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I've had success with estate sales too.
Yeah, and I've also heard of people like posting ads on like Facebook Marketplace, like they'll come clear out your books. I've never tried that, so I can't say how well it works. I'm sure you have more experience with that, but I used to crush library sales for sure, because spend $100 on 10 bags of books, and like you said, you can make 1,000, 2,000 profit pretty easily.
Yeah. Game over, man. It's game over. So what about retail arbitrage? I never really got big into retail arbitrage. So just like, we gave advice for selling books, like what to do kind of. What advice would you have for retail arbitrage starting out?
Well, retail arbitrage has definitely changed since I started, because like Ross and like those big discount stores, I used to be able to go in there and spend $1,000 at a Marshall's, no problem. But now they've raised their prices. There's not as much, there's a lot more competition. So it's not as easy to hit stores like that. Most of my retail arbitrage is going to be outlet malls like Nike Outlet, Adidas, Reebok, and those, just because they consistently every week have product and you can spend a lot of money. So if I was starting with retail arbitrage now, I'd do what I had to do to get ungated in those brands, and I'd start sourcing those stores because Nike, Amazon doesn't sell Nike
Do you have
either.
any ungating tips?
I pretty much just use, I got auto improved pretty much for everything, but either find a wholesaler like for toys and stuff. But I used to use East Bay when it came to Nike. Recommend to people. I'm pretty sure like Kohl's.com works and stuff to get an invoice. I'm not quite
Kohl's
sure.
works for everything.
Yeah, so
Kohl's receipts work for Adidas, Nikes, beauty products, any brand on Kohl's, you can get ungated in if you upload the Kohl's receipt.
yeah, so I would just go find the cheapest product on Kohl's. When it came to Nike, you could probably find like a Nike soccer headband, buy 10 units, get ungated, and then if you want to return the products, wouldn't recommend it, but you could, and then just get ungated. And like I said, Nike, Adidas, those top brands. And then any type of brands frequently see sourcing, especially if you're finding a specific beauty brand a lot at different stores. Try to find a way to get ungated in those brands. And then with like toys coming up, Hasbro, Star Wars, Lego, all those are great brands to get ungated in as well. Once you have stuff ungated, like it just comes down to learning the different sales cycles every single week. Like Nike, for example, has their new sales start on Thursdays. So I always go check Thursdays, find which items I'm going to be purchasing, and then I just make my rounds around to the 5 different Nike outlets, and then I do that until I buy up all the inventory. So it's just learning the sales cycles, trying to be get-ins with the people that work there, build relationships with them, and then over time you'll start to get more product opportunities when it comes to RA.
If somebody wants to do retail arbitrage, what stores would you recommend starting out with? And do you recommend like going to the clearance section? Do you recommend just scanning everything? Do you recommend using Seller Amp or the Amazon Seller app? Like what kind of approach would you take with that?
Starting out, I'd use just the Seller Amp app just because it has access to all that information. And when it comes to like clearance section stuff, especially like you'll see videos, Walmart clearance, the problem is like most of the time when you get a product on clearance at Walmart, 400 other Walmarts across the country get that same product on clearance and it just tanks in price. So what I'd recommend is I've had the best luck at outlet malls, Nike outlet, Nike clearance outlet, all those clearance stores, just because a lot of the different locations have different sales on different models. So it's not a ton of competition and there's just a ton of product opportunity. Every time I can go into a Nike and find profitable product, right? And especially like the clearance Nike, like a clearance Nike or a clearance Adidas, they're getting there's way less of those stores across the country compared to like a traditional Nike factory, and they constantly get new product that isn't at the other Nike factories, if that makes sense. So if you have like a Nike clearance store or an Adidas clearance store in your area, those are like where I make the most money just because there's not as much competition and the products are usually priced a lot cheaper than at the other ones. But I'd recommend like if you can get ungated in those top brands, like outlet malls are probably where I make most of my money when it comes to RA.
And then what about like online arbitrage and wholesale? Like how do you recommend somebody gets into that?
I'd recommend with online arbitrage, I just pretty much do all manual sourcing. So I download Seller Amp and just learn what storefront stocking is and then how to I just literally like going on websites and just looking through the sales. Then once you start storefront stocking, you might find some replens and stuff like that. And then also just getting on like email lists for like a lot of different stores. So they send coupons, just coupon systems, because a lot of stores, I know you did OA for a while, a lot of the products I buy now are from stores that have certain items. It might even be like the store branded items or whatever that go on sale like once every few months, right? So once OA for you start learning these big sales that these websites have, so then you can start finding which products are profitable during those sales, but they're not profitable any other time of the year. So that's a great way that I've been able to find replens. But just learning sales, cash back, all that typical stuff with OA. And then with wholesale, it's all, for me, it was just reaching out to as many companies as possible and getting through the bad ones to find the good ones. And then with wholesale, it's more of a volume game, right? So the more products you go through, the more you're going to find. But a lot of people too with wholesale, they like you get a big product list full of products, they'll just run it through a scraper and that's it. I like going through the list manually because a lot of listings on Amazon, they might be variations. They just might not match up with the UPC that your distributor is giving you, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
You find a lot of hidden gems that a lot of other wholesalers aren't traditionally finding just because they're using scrapers. So that's how I've been able to find a lot more wholesale products with like way less competition. Because there's still a lot of competition in wholesale if you're just doing like the bare minimum product research stuff. So
Yeah.
if you the wholesale, take your time and learn how to just manually go through these product lists and find different listings and stuff like that. And then you can always outsource that to a VA to take over. But I'd recommend if you're going to get into wholesale,
Mhm.
reach out to as many suppliers as possible and then take your time going through the list to learn the different brands and all that different stuff.
How are you reaching out to suppliers, and what kind of suppliers are you going after?
I pretty much just look on Google and then I just reach out through email first. And then if I don't hear anything back through email, I'll keep it all in a spreadsheet, like who I emailed, who responded, stuff like that. And then whoever doesn't respond, I'll try to reach out to them over phone. A lot of times they will get back to you over email, but if you're just someone who's super eager, it's a lot easier just to pick up the phone and call the supplier, just because a lot of times they're getting maybe 50 emails a day of
Mhm.
wanting to be requested. So, and then also kind of a hack. A lot of times when you're going after these big distributors, like they just won't reply to you at all. It's hard to get someone on the phone. So what I like to do is a lot of times they'll have a new supplier account like submission thing, and then they'll have like a current customer application thing or whatever to log in as a current customer. So I'll just like pretend like I'm a current customer and act like I'm having an issue, and then when they reach out to me, I'll be like, oh no, I'm just trying to open up an account. So I've had
Mm.
getting accounts that way just by kind of getting them to respond thinking I'm a actual
Yeah.
customer. But
Mhm.
yeah,
That's interesting.
that's pretty much what I do. Pretty much all my wholesalers that I find is just from Google, LinkedIn, Yellow
And
Pages.
what are you typing in Google? Are you typing in like grocery distributor, grocery wholesaler? Like, are you typing in the brands that you're going after? Like, how are you finding these people to reach out to?
So I'll do like grocery distributor, but I like to kind of narrow it down to like different states, regions, and stuff like that. So if I'm in California, I'll be like grocery distributors, California. Or if you want to narrow it down even further, you could do grocery distributors in San Diego. Because if you're just doing grocery distributors in the United States, only like the top big distributors are going to pop up. So if you want to find kind of those smaller mid-tier wholesalers, you're going to have to narrow your search more towards like locally and stuff like that, and then branch out that way. And a lot of times you can just go on a brand's website. Let's say you find a brand that you're interested in selling. You can go to their website. They'll have a list of their suppliers a lot of times. Or you can even just reach out directly to them and say, hey, I'm interested in purchasing your product for my business. Who distributes your products? Who's carrying your products? And they'll send you a list of all the distributors and the different regions and stuff that carry their products. So that's what I've had the most luck doing. But when it comes to a simple Google search, I'll just type in grocery distributor, California, grocery distributor, Texas, and then it's nothing crazy. And then I'll just branch off, go into LinkedIn and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm. So what are your plans for the future then? So you're doing online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, a little bit of each. You're at 310,000 in sales over the last 30 days. What's the future for Garrett? Are you wanting to scale to like 1 million plus? Are you wanting to maintain? Are you wanting to increase your profit margin? Are you wanting to keep doing all three or focus on one? What's the future look like?
I'm trying at the current moment. My goal is, I think after like Q4 ends and stuff, I'm going to really just transition out of RA and OA completely and just go 100% wholesale, just because it's more efficient. But my goal is I'm at about 310 right now. So my next milestone is going to be 500,000 a month. But I don't know how big I want to get necessarily, if I want to go to 1 million a month, or you see guys doing 4 million a month. I kind of like, I mean, I'm making good money now, and I kind of like how much I work because I don't work like crazy hours or anything. So if I can get to 500,000 in a month and just cruise, have my systems in place,
Mm-hmm.
work 10, 20, 30 hours a week if I need to, I'd be happy with that. And then just start venturing into
What do you think that 500,000 a month looks like? Is that like what percent is that OA versus RA versus wholesale at 500,000?
I'm hoping to just go strictly wholesale once I get to that point. Because
Mm-hmm.
this year
Yep.
I have enough access to product to where I can go all wholesale right now. But just for, I have my sister that works for me prepping my RA stuff. So that's kind of what keeps me doing RA, just keep her employed and stuff like that. But I think after Q4 is over, I'm just going to strictly go into completely wholesale and just cut out everything else and put my focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Having retail arbitrage in your arsenal of selling on Amazon, arsenal of weapons, dude, during Q4, like if you're MFing and you're doing retail arbitrage, the sky's the limit.
Oh yeah,
Like
like
not much can go wrong, you know?
yeah, step two with like RA and Q4, what I like to do is it's kind of sketchy, kind of not, but I'll just go into like Target and I'll list every single toy merchant fulfilled and I'll like, double the price. And then that'll kind of be my alert. Like once one sells, I'll start trying to go find a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But then if
That's
you can't
awesome.
find that toy, then you're kind of screwed. You got to cancel that order.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
man, just list the whole store.
sold like 1,000 units during Q4 of one item is by doing that. So if someone who wants to take
Wow.
a risk, it's a decent way to kind of go about it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I really think if people like hustled during Q4 doing retail arbitrage or even online arbitrage, like I don't think it'd be like insane for a complete beginner to do a few 100,000. Just
oh
if they truly just listed like as many ASINs as they could, not even like doing sketch shit. I mean, you could buy it and then return it if it doesn't sell, but just like being aware of what's available in the store, having direct access to it. Because with wholesale, you have to purchase product and you have to wait 3 weeks to a month to 6 weeks to get it. With retail
right,
arbitrage, immediately. With online arbitrage, 3 to 7 days. Retail arbitrage, same day. So
yeah, especially
there's a huge advantage.
like you can be selling stuff as you're checking out at the store.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beauty of retail arbitrage, especially during Q4, like you said. Like if someone has access to enough capital and they're willing to just hustle, like a couple $100,000 can be achieved pretty easily. Like I've sold 80 grand of just one product from like RA during Q4. So like you find a few of those heavy hitters, like you can easily just crush.
Mm-hmm. Has your YouTube channel helped you out at all, like find product or network with people who have helped build your Amazon business? Have you gotten any ROI from your social media and your Amazon business?
Yeah, I've definitely met. I honestly haven't been as involved in like the community and just like kind of becoming friends with a lot of people as I probably should be.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of the people that I just talk to on a normal basis and kind of just keep up with, I met through social media. Like my friend Rich, I don't know if you ever heard of him. His channel's called Hustle Ninjas, but
Mm.
he used to do Amazon, and we would just always send like bolos back and forth and stuff like that. So I definitely would recommend it if you're someone just trying to get started. Like definitely try to find a few friends in the community that you can team up with, because 2-3 people could find a hot deal online, and why not have you and a couple buddies clear out that product versus a bunch of random people. And then you guys can agree like, hey, don't tank the price on this product if you guys buy it all out. But definitely meeting people, networking, definitely will have an ROI when it comes, even if it's just like having someone there to bounce ideas off of, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think having like 1, 2 to 3 friends where you share products. I mean, dude, in wholesale, it makes a lot of sense. So, like, let's say you're doing wholesale and you're able to spend 100,000 a month. If you have another friend that does wholesale and has different suppliers, and now you guys share suppliers, you just made both your businesses so much more robust because now you have double the suppliers. So if one supplier gets cut off, you guys can share. Of course, it takes somebody you really trust, but that's actually kind of my game plan to protect myself in the Amazon business is like with people I really trust, we're going to start sharing suppliers more. Like I'm already doing it. So that way, like we all have 3, 4, 10 suppliers that we know are good, instead of all of us separately having 1 to 2. And then if those get cut off, we're screwed, you know?
And then there's opportunities for like bulk buys too. I don't know if you've ever tried doing any of that. I've heard of people doing like
Mhm.
there might be a distributor closing out of a product that they have 3,000 units of, and it's kind of like, oh, do
Mm.
capital for this right now, but I can team up with 2 buddies to make that purchase.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly, that's another thing, you can team up with people. I need to do a better job of I just interviewed Amazon Lit, like, an hour ago, and he was talking about always ask for discounts at, like, different phases. I need to do a better job of that because 'cause I'll place,
Oh,
like, a giant order, like 100K, and that's, like, way bigger than most of my orders, and I'm not even, like, trying to negotiate a discount. Like, I should probably say, "Hey, can I get, like, a 5%, 10%?" Like, that's just free money
oh
in the
yeah,
bank, you know?
on an order, you're definitely gonna get a discount for sure. I've negotiated discounts at like $10,000 orders, or I'll be
Mhm.
like, hey, how much of a discount can I expect to get at 50,000 spend per month or 100,000 spend per month? And they'll kind of give you different tiers of, for example, like one distributor I have, if you spend 50K a month, you get 8%. Once you're up to 100, it's 10. Then it gets bumped up to 12%. And then once you hit like 300,000 a month spend, it's maxed out at 15% discount. So at
Mhm.
least you can kind of have a framework to work off of. I just always ask my sales reps, like, what are the discounts that I can expect if I'm spending so this amount or that amount with you guys? So
Mhm.
definitely negotiate for spending that much.
Yeah, 100%. What does your most profitable wholesale relationship look like? Are you working directly with, like, a sales rep? Are you working with the owner? Or is it like a brand direct? Is it a distributor? Like, what does that relationship look like for you?
So my most profitable this wholesaler that I purchased from, it's more of like a they specialize in like closeout type of product. So whether it's a product that's getting a new model's coming out of it or something, so they're closing out the old model, whatever. But I work pretty much directly. It's like a family that owns it. So one of the sons is, I guess, my sales rep. So he'll just call me saying, "Hey, we're getting these different items in." So on and so forth. And I just work real closely with them. He'll
Nice.
just pick up the phone, FaceTime me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, it makes it super easy once you build that relationship, especially if they know like you're good for it, you're gonna place orders and spend money. Like those sometimes different wholesalers will get super good products in and they'll hit you up first before they send out like an email list or whatever like that.
Mhm.
Definitely just stay true to your word with whoever you're working with. Um, and if you say you're going to spend money with them, spend money with them, and it'll pay off in the long run for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So, in order for you to get half a mil a month with wholesale, what do you think needs to happen in your business? Do you think you need to find more suppliers? Do you think you need to, like, systematize purchasing? Like, what kind of things do you think need to happen in order to get half a mil a month on autopilot?
So I think I have access to enough product at the moment. It's just going to come down to sourcing, systematizing like my purchase orders and stuff like that, and then communications with prep center and stuff like that as well. And then just managing cash flow. Um, Sometimes I'll get a bigger payout than others. I don't really take credit or loans. I'll take like an Amazon lending loan every now and then, but just to scale to 500K a month, like you're spending multiple 6 figures a month on products. So just managing cash flow correctly and stuff like that. Just having, I pretty much have everything in place. It's just kind of pulling the
Mhm.
trigger.
You gotta make
So
sure Amazon pays you.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but I, and then also finding more suppliers with products to scale to 500,000 now with my current suppliers. I'd have to take probably a little bit of a margin hit. So it wouldn't be bad to start vetting out some new suppliers and hopefully kind of be able to keep that margin up and not have to sacrifice margin just because that's the only access to product I have, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. So I wanna ask you, you're a unique guest because you do online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, and wholesale. So I wanna ask you what your Q4 strategy is for all of those. But before we get into that, I want to take a quick commercial break and talk about the fastest listing software on the planet. Here's Steve Rakin's opinion of GoToLister.
The number one thing I love about it most is it helps me list and process my items that much faster. And as you know, if you want to grow your Amazon business, speed is the name of the game. If you're thinking about selling on Amazon or you're already selling and you want to be able to grow your business quicker, definitely check out GoToLister. Appreciate you, Avery, for creating the software, and it's really helping me grow my business. Much love.
Give that a free trial. Head on over to GoToLister.com. Real quick, inside GoToLister, you can not only see what your sales are, but you can also see your total profit. So Amazon Seller app breaks down what your sales are. GoToLister breaks down what your profit is each month. It's taking a second to load that. You can also create batches, send shipments to Amazon. This works for wholesale. This works for online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, booksellers. This works for everything. This is an inventory lab replacement. You guys can sign up. If you message us, Garrett will actually give you an additional 15 days, so a 30-day total, and we'll make sure that Garrett gets some coffee money for that since he helped come on my podcast and maybe inspire you guys to give GoToLister a try. So email us support@gotolister.com. That's Garrett with 1 T. If you put 2 T's, we won't give you. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so 105,000 in sales. This user has not currently entered their buy cost, but in GoToLister, you can easily enter how much you paid as you're listing them, as you're listing your items. And then it has the Amazon fees. And so what your true profit is. So you can see the light orange bars, like the yellowish bars, are what your sales are. Everybody can already see this for free on the Amazon Seller app, but GoToLister tells you what your net profit is at the end of the day. And again, you can create batches in here. You can send box contents. You can print F and SKU labels. 100% of your shipment needs are done in here. And in addition to that, we also have a replen spreadsheet that allows you to see what items you need to replenish. So if you guys sign up for GoToLister, you'll also get that. So when you sell, we make sure that you always have at least a 30-day supply of ASINs that are selling. So if you have an ASIN that is, let's say it's doing $3,000 in sales a month or in a profit a month, $3,000 profit, you want to make sure you never run out of stock of that ASIN. And so what we allow you to do is download your sales data from here and download your items listed. And it takes what items you have listed, which is how much do you have in stock, minus, and then it also subtracts what your future sales are. So it tells you, I'm not sure if I said that right, but it basically tells you what your 30-day supply is of inventory. So you download 2 reports from GoToLister, enter those in. It tells you your top selling ASINs, which ones you need to buy more of in order to have a 30-day supply. And so that's something we just rolled out too. So back to the podcast, Garrett's opinion on Q4 strategy for online arbitrage versus retail arbitrage versus wholesale. Let's hear it.
So right now, I've already started kind of pumping in as much inventory as possible when it comes to wholesale. Because like you said, those order times can be up to 4 to 6 weeks sometimes out when it comes to purchasing for wholesale. So I've already started getting some of those purchases going. There's different kind of focus when it comes to wholesale. I sell a lot of grocery items too. So like in Q4, stuff like minced meats, canned foods, stuff like that sells a lot better. Meltable stuff, chocolates, gummy worms, stuff like that. Anything that's a meltable, you can send to FBA now. So there's a little bit of a price spike during Q4. And then with OA and RA, it's going to be pretty much just doing what I do now, but then kind of shifting into more of a merchant fulfilled focus, like those last 2 weeks of November, first 2 weeks of December, and putting that focus on fast selling.
What about purchasing with retail arbitrage and online arbitrage? What does purchasing look like during Q4?
What do you mean? Could you
are you taking advantage of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals like heavy, or?
To be honest, I've never gotten big into like going big on those different sales, just because the past years I have, like when I first started, like all the products that were like the main promoted Black Friday sale this or Black Friday that, all those products seem to have a lot of competition and get tanked fast. So if you're not merchant filling them like that day or the day after Black Friday, like you can expect if you're sending those to FBA, you're not going to really make profit.
Are you a big cashback user?
Yeah, I pretty much just use Rakuten, and then Nike outlets, like I'll use the Apple card just because it's like 4% cash back sometimes.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So definitely use cash back, especially during Q4. Especially when there's those sales, you can get a lot of websites will be offering 10% cash back stuff.
Yeah, dude, 20, 30%. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it is. You can make 5 figures just in cash back if you're spending enough. Pretty insane.
Yeah. So then wholesale, what's the wholesale Q4 strategy look like?
Mostly I'm just like looking out like in November, December, and even late October, like what are the products that I want to have in stock, because I need to start ordering them now. So specific holiday foods or grocery items, any type of stuff that's seasonal, I need to have those orders placed now, because we're going to be hitting September. Those will get here early October probably, and then I'll get them into FBA by November. So if you're doing wholesale now, like within this next week or two, you should be planning like which products do I want to have in stock in November and December, and then start placing those orders now. And then really just doing research on the data of previous years for different products. Because right now a product might be priced at $15, but during November and December every year, since it's a holiday, that food item might be selling for a 50% markup. And you can see over the past 4 or 5 years, that's been consistent. So just make sure I'm really analyzing the different data and getting my orders placed in time so I can have that product into Amazon is pretty much the strategy I'm going with right now. I'm still newer when it comes to Q4 with wholesale. This is my second Q4 with wholesale, so I'm still kind of learning as I go, but that's pretty much the strategy I'm going to be using at the moment.
100%. Well, pleasure having you on, Garrett. We'll plug all your socials below. You have a ton of free, great step-by-step content on your YouTube channel, so everyone go check that out. And much love, man. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate you having me, bro.
100%.